Before I jump into this presentation, I just do want to mention, because I was having a conversation with someone just a few minutes ago, and just as a reminder, the way real estate fraud is investigated in Riverside County, the Sheriff's Department has fraud detectives, spread out. They're a huge operation, and so they do have some very excellent detectives that will investigate real estate fraud, various types of real estate fraud. And some of the large police departments also will have detectives that are trained in fraud. The district attorney's office has a whole unit that is dedicated to real estate fraud, and that's not just prosecutors, it's investigators. So for the most part, when you're talking about real estate fraud of any kind, we are going to be your first responders, so to speak. So if you didn't know that and you think you've seen some real estate fraud, just call the district attorney's office, the main line, and just say, hey, I need to speak to someone in the real estate fraud unit, and they'll send you to that person. So that's just the easiest way, just so you all know that and you have that information. You don't need to search around for the right detective, because certainly if you call a detective bureau or a sheriff's office, they're busy answering calls. Our investigators, the ones that are dedicated to real estate, that is all they do. So, all right. So I want to talk today about the state of our state and what we need to do to save it. And, this isn't a political talk. And you'll see that in just a minute. This is about public safety in California. And I've been your district attorney for, this will be my 10th year. I was elected 10 years ago, if you can believe that. Time flies. But in that time, I've had a lot of frustrations in trying to do my job to protect the citizens of this county, and that is my job. Without a doubt, my job is to do everything I can, work with the sheriff, work with the police chiefs to, under the existing framework of the laws, to protect the people that live in this county. And so many times I've had conversations with business owners who say, Mr. DA, my business was broken into again. This is the 7th time. What can you do for me? And I have to tell them, there's not much I can do for you. Not because I don't want to. I want to more than you can imagine. But the laws don't allow me to. Because that individual that broke into your business and is stealing from you and your family, and most of these folks are not, we're not talking about Walmarts and Targets. These are families, right? They poured their whole life into this business, whatever retail business it is. And the laws don't give any punishment for theft under $950, right? Yeah. And that's where we're at in this state. Yeah. And those conversations have been ongoing since I've been your district attorney, and it's very frustrating for me. Well, the public has had it now, and really had it. And it's to the point where it's bipartisan. It's Democrats, it's Republicans, it's independents. They've had it with the state of the criminal law in California. And so about 2 years ago, a group of elected DAs, and I happen to be the president this year of the statewide District Attorneys Association called California District Attorneys Association, CDAA is what we go by. So I happen to be the president this year. It's only a 1-year stint, so thankfully, because I'm already busy with my day job here in Riverside. But about 2 years ago, a bunch of us got together and said, everybody's leaving, we've got to do something. So we wrote an initiative, and we wrote it in such a way that we believed it would pass. And again, when this was written 18 months to 2 years ago, I would say that the political environment has got even better for the passage of a time to amend Prop 47 initiative. We wrote this, and in December of 2023, we started collecting signatures to put this on the ballot to amend Prop 47. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, is this initiative, this effort, where we're at, what it does, and then answer any questions you may have about it. So let me start out. I've got a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully the folks in Hemet can see the PowerPoint clearly, but I want to start out. This is just the cover page, obviously, but let's look up at the top, and it's something's blocking it, but it says Serial Bay Area. Let's see if I can. Can anyone click that little X for me so that you can read the headline? Nope, not that. The problem. Got it. Okay. Serial Bay Area shoplifter arrested 90 times. Okay, this if I could just, in one headline, that tells you everything you need to know about our system being broken. And don't think that this is just the Bay Area, those crazy folks up in the Bay Area. No, that's not. This happens in Riverside County. We had a burglar in Riverside County known as the snake burglar. I don't know if you saw the coverage in Riverside. He got that name because he would break into these establishments, businesses, all businesses, and he would slither around on his elbows to try to avoid the security cameras. So the places that had security cameras pointed down on the ground would catch him, and he got the moniker the snake burglar. He was arrested and prosecuted by my office 70 times.
Whoa.
70 times. So he didn't, in those 70 times, he didn't spend any time in jail. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah. This is a huge problem. So theft is exploding in California. So this is, let's go through this. I'll go through this. It's not a long presentation. I can do this. There we go. The problem. Since the passage of Proposition 47 in 2014, reported retail theft, fuel and cargo theft has exploded. Reported retail theft has exploded. Reported theft that's gone through the roof. Homelessness has increased 51% in California in the last 10 years, and it's down 11% in the rest of the country. Drug addiction has become a humanitarian crisis. The consequences of impacting public safety and quality of life. Before I move on from this slide, I think when Adam saw this presentation, I talked about taking my son to a Padres game last year, and it was horrifying. If you haven't been to downtown San Diego, it's bad. We walked stepping over hypodermic needles and row upon row of tents, people living in their tents. My son's 8 years old, and I didn't want him to see what was going on in some of the tents. So I'm not going to another Padres baseball game. As much as I love Petco and he loves baseball, it shouldn't be like that. We should be able to take our families to a game in one of the most beautiful cities in the country. Where did we go wrong? Is where, it kind of hit me when I was there, because I kept thinking that this homelessness problem and the tent cities were Los Angeles. And I always think everybody who lives in Los Angeles is a little nutty, but so I could write it off, or San Francisco, but it's not anymore. It's San Diego, and it's coming to us unless we do something. So the retail, fuel, and cargo theft problem, that these rates have risen across California. I'm going to go through this quickly. So ridiculous in terms of that's the amount between a misdemeanor and a felony. Repeat offenders are treated as misdemeanors. Let me explain this for a second. So prior to Prop 47, if you committed a theft and you had two prior misdemeanor thefts, the third one would be a felony. So we had a version of 3 strikes at the low misdemeanor level. And I'll be honest, we would sometimes send habitual thieves to prison, because my attitude was, if you won't stop, then I have to stop you. That's my job. Want you to stop. It's maybe a drug addiction problem, whatever the case. I'm open-minded to trying to get you treatment, but if you won't stop, eventually I'm going to send you to prison. So that was the state of the law before 2014. Proposition 47 did away with that law, and what replaced it was this scheme where not only is it 950 and below as a misdemeanor, but it's a misdemeanor no matter how many times you do it. So like the snake burglar, you can get caught 70 times in a row, and it's only ever a misdemeanor. Misdemeanors don't get arrested. They can't. They get a ticket to appear in court, right? So imagine how that goes. You've been arrested 70 times, and on the 71st time, here comes the officer and hands you, you're going to appear in court, 2 months from now, right? How often do you think they show up? They never show up. It's broken. It's fundamentally broken. So that's what we're talking about. So the last point there is important because the ticket offenses, the fact that no one's arrested, is why the police don't come anymore. Right? So you get that, right? So you understand it from their perspective. They're not being, they're not being lazy. They're just, at some point, what's the point? They've got other things to do to help keep you safe, so they just don't come to these things anymore. And the result of that is business owners don't report it anymore. I've had business owners tell me, we stopped reporting it to our insurance companies because they raise our rates. So, I mean, it's just, things are pretty as bad as they could get here. Well, I think they could get worse, but. So the clear language of 47 says that we cannot, they're saying, well, you didn't give the legislature a chance to fix this. That's a disingenuous argument. They know that it says right in there that you can't. And anything that passes through the legislature that fixes 47 will be struck down by the courts. So the legislature right now is busy trying to pass fixes to 47 because they know that this is going to get on the ballot. So they're busy. So if you hear from Sacramento, oh no, we're going to fix this. It's not going to work. Don't fall for it. Got to return to the voters. Okay. Right. So retail theft law. And the governor was super excited. And this is not a political thing. I'm not going to bash the governor, but he was talking about how this was going to save California. Just nonsense. The law requires prosecutors to be able to prove that two or more people are acting in concert when they commit a theft. So it's like basically a conspiracy charge for a theft. How often do you think we can actually prove that? Really rarely, right? So we fought, we're about the most aggressive DA's office in the state of California. And last year, 2023, we filed 8 felonies for organized retail theft, 8 in a county of 2.5 million. So, and it's similar across the state. So this gets used very little. So that's another kind of, red herring that the Sacramento politicians have been using. Okay, so we tried to do this. Other folks have tried to fix this. It hasn't worked. Organized retail theft law is ineffective. See there, the 63% of DAs have never used this. They know that where we're at. 2023, more of a priority versus 1 year ago. Organized retail crime, 78.1%. Think it's a huge problem. Violence during criminal acts, 72.3%. Homeless concerns, high. So you can see here these numbers are really high in terms of the retail industry thinking this is a problem. So this is what the retail industry has done in California. 45% of retail owners have reduced store operating hours. Have any of you had the really edifying experience of having to ask someone to unlock a cabinet to get some deodorant or to get some laundry detergent? That's where we are in our country. Just a few years ago, we could go in and pick those things off the shelf. Yeah. Go to Home Depot now, and everything's locked up. So, 28.1 respondents reported closing stores completely. I want to tell you, as a president of CDAA, I've had face-to-face meetings with some of the owners of these huge international, multinational corporations. And then they may be bluffing, but what they're telling us is that if we don't change that, if we don't pass something, if we don't change our laws, they're leaving California. That's how much money they're losing. They're losing billions of dollars trying to operate in this state. Now, this is the biggest market, so they want to stay here. But I'm not going to tell you which company, but it would be shocking to not have a Home Depot or a Target in the entire state of California, and that's where we're headed. All right, the solution. This initiative would reclassify theft with 2 or more prior convictions as a felony. Leaving the structure of Proposition 47 in place, but that if you have 2 misdemeanor convictions for theft, the next time you steal, the amount goes to anything, $1. Okay, so it goes from $9.50 to $1, anything of value. The DA can charge you with a felony. And I will in this county. I can tell you that I will. on a fourth conviction, you become prison eligible. So in California, a different law came into effect where we can only send felons for certain classes of crimes to the local jail, no longer go to prison. So this third conviction will fall into that category where we send them to jail, but they're going to go into the local jail. Fourth conviction, I can send them all the way to state prison, and there's plenty of room in state prison. In fact, the governor wants to close more prisons. So it also enhanced property penalties for excessive taking or damage to property, and it enhances penalty for acting in concert. All right, now I haven't talked about drugs. Let me talk about what Proposition 47 did to the drug possession and how we're going to fix it. So Proposition 47 made all drug possession that came into effect in Prop 47 was because we wanted to get drug addicts out of prison. Okay, I actually don't think that prison is the right place for drug addicts. They need to be in rehab. But one of the unintended consequences of Prop 47 was that participation in court-ordered drug rehabilitation treatment in the last 10 years, because of this change in the law, has fallen almost 70% in California. So we're getting less treatment, more drug addicts that are going untreated, and they're not going to jail. So where do you think they go? On the streets. And the drug addiction crisis, along with the mental health crisis, is what's fueling our tent cities across our big cities in California. So this change is aimed at the homelessness problem. So let me tell you what this initiative would do to change that. It would classify 5 drugs as hard drugs. So I just mentioned about, I'll do it again, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, PCP, and fentanyl. Those 5 drugs under the law would be classified as quote unquote hard drugs. Possession for one of those 5 hard drugs, the first time you do it, the second time you do it, misdemeanor. So it stays the same. We keep the structure of Prop 47. The third time you do it, this initiative creates something new under California law. It's called a treatment mandated felony. Treatment mandated felony. It's doesn't exist currently under California law. What this would mean is that the local prosecutor would have the power to charge that third offense for drug possession as a treatment mandated felony. So they go into court, it's a felony on the books. The judge is going to say to the person, you've been charged with a treatment mandated felony, so we have a drug rehabilitation program available. Would you like to take it? If they say yes, off they go to drug rehabilitation. If they succeed, the prosecution is dismissed. That the judge has the power to do that. We want them not in prison, we want them in rehabilitation, right? So again, my critics are going to say, and they're already saying about me, he just wants to lock everyone up. No, I don't. But I need the power to administer some tough love. And that's the bottom line. But saying to addicts, would you like a voluntary program that takes a year of your life where you're going to struggle with your addiction? Or would you like to plead guilty to the misdemeanor and you'll be out on the streets tonight? What would you like to do? That is the decision that drug addicts get every day in our courts. It's not working, folks. It's not working. This is why it's not compassionate. So a lot of people say, we have to be compassionate. Well, stepping over homeless camps is not compassionate. It's cruel. We need to do something to help them. They deserve help. And if they won't take help, we may have to send a few to jail until the word gets out that, can't do this anymore. Got to make tough decisions. Okay, so moving on here. With the fentanyl crisis, we also added something to this initiative that says if you deal fentanyl, you're going to get an admonishment that you can kill someone and you could be prosecuted for murder. In Riverside County, I'm sure you've heard, but we lead the state on this. We've charged 34 drug dealers with murder for killing people with fentanyl. So, all right.
This is actually very prevalent in this case.
We've had 2 go to trial and we've had 2 convictions. One for murder, the person got 15 years to life and one for manslaughter. And the person got 11 years in prison. So I consider both of those prevalent. So 2 of the 34 have gone to trial, and 9 of the 34 have resulted in plea bargains to manslaughter. So the polling on this initiative is through the roof. We hired a bit, right? What's interesting is I participated on a panel up in Berkeley. I'll just, as a quick aside. And it was me and Summer Stefan from San Diego, and the Tin Ho is the new DA in Sacramento. And then we had the DAs like George Gascon and a few others that are sort of, I consider rogue DAs, but different philosophy. And it was amazing to me that at that conference, people were saying, yeah, theft is not a problem. This is just made up. It's made up, ginned up to scare people. And I wanted to ask them, you really think Target and Walmart are going to lock up all their products if theft is not a problem? I think we've got some good evidence that theft is a problem. So anyway, the public understands and they get it, that theft and homelessness is a problem. We got a pretty fair ballot and title summary. Pretty fair from the Attorney General. In the third line, he actually used the word fentanyl, which shocked us as DAs. We thought that it was going to be, the Send Everyone to Prison Act is what I thought we were going to name it. But the actual summary are yes. And look at the numbers, they're hard yeses. We have a lot of hard yeses. When you further in the polling let people know what it's going to do to those engaging in hard drugs or fentanyl trafficking, the number of yes goes up to 89%. When you talk about what it's going to do specifically to fentanyl, it goes up to 94% approval or support for the initiative. 94% in California. We can't get 94% of people to agree the sky is blue in California. 94% want to change Prop 47. So when I said at the beginning that the public has had it, it's not anecdotal. We have data. The public has had it, like really had it. We're going to do this year. We're going to take the first steps to changing our state and taking our state back. So the campaign has 2 phases: qualification. We need to qualify this to be on the November ballot. We're not there yet. Our goal is to get to 880,000 signatures. That's our goal because of the rate of rejection that some of these signatures go through, the verification process. We're right now we're at 800,000. So it's going to be on the ballot. Estimated cost for qualification is $7 to $8 million, and then the campaign will be another $5 to $10 million. That's a little bit dated. We're at 800,000 signatures, and we've raised $8 million so far and spent it on professional signature gathering companies. So we're going to be starting over once this gets on the ballot with the campaign, and there's going to be a lot of attacks coming my way. So you can look for that at an internet provider near you. You'll see that. I'm sure my name will be used in vain a few times, but that's fine. I don't care. I don't do this for likes. I don't do it for friends. I got plenty of friends. My wife likes me most days. So, by the way, the donors, we've gotten money from Walmart, Target, Macy's, Home Depot, grocers, 7-Eleven. The 7-Eleven retailers gave us a check for $1 million.
Wow.
They should. Our local tribes, San Manuel gave $250,000. We have a local Riverside County tribe, Agua Caliente, that's promised to match that, $250,000. So we have a lot of, obviously we have a lot of law enforcement support as well. I want to point this out, and I said at the beginning, this is not a partisan thing, not a Republican, a Democrat, or independent thing. Mayors across California are supporting this. The mayor of San Francisco and the mayor of Santa Monica are supporting this, if that tells you anything. Right? These are Democrat strongholds, progressive Democrat strongholds. They've had enough. They're supporting this. And the reason why they're supporting it is because they're getting beat up by their constituents. They want changes. People are saying, look, I love progressive politics. I'm tired of this. We're ready for a change. So that's where we're at in California. So there's a glimmer of hope here. These are our endorsements. We're kind of bragging here, but we can move on quickly. And that's the last slide, and I'll take questions now. Somebody asked me before the presentation, how can I help? At this point, since the final date is April 23rd, we're too close to any volunteer. You can donate or go on the website and find a way to help. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any of those here? Because I sent a request to somebody and I still haven't received one. I couldn't find it online.
No, I don't have any because the deadline for turning them in was Monday.
Oh.
So we have an effort. I'm the chair of the Riverside County campaign effort. So we did have folks doing some volunteer aside from the volunteer signature gathering, aside from the paid folks, but those have already been turned in. So we need time to verify.
If you guys can hold on just a real quick second, because we are streaming to Hemet, I want to make sure we get a mic out for questions so that we can hear everybody. 2 questions I know are going to come up. Actually, 1 question first.
Yeah.
Are we okay to share these slides with the group?
Absolutely.
I see a lot of people taking pictures, so we'll make sure that we get a copy of this out to you guys. And then either I missed it or you might have skipped over the aggregate theft for the felony bullet point. Can you touch on that, please?
Yes, I did skip over that. My apologies. So one of the things that Prop 47 did as well, aside from the 950 limit that you all know, is it said that we could not aggregate theft to get to a felony. So for example, somebody, a thief or a group of thieves, they're going to hit a series of retail establishments on the same street, which happens a lot. So they go in and they steal $800 worth of merchandise from one store. They go out to their car, they park the merchandise in their trunk, they go to the next store and they steal $700 worth of merchandise, and then on, 500, 400. We cannot aggregate the amount to get up to 950, which is ridiculous, right?
Yes.
They're considered separate offenses. So somebody has to steal 950 from the same retail establishment on the same occasion. This will change that. It'll allow us to aggregate within if it's part of the same basic criminal plan, we can aggregate and get up past the 950. So, thank you.
Thanks for that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go maybe 2 questions here, Murrieta, then we'll jump over to Hemet, and then we'll kind of go back and forth. We've got probably about 30, 40 minutes, if you've got time here, Mr. Hestrin, for questions. So we'll try to keep them fairly brief so we can get to as many, but want to make sure you guys have an opportunity to go. So I'm going to come over here. Did you get your question answered, finished?
Well,
Hold on.
I have a follow-up.
This is your chance to grill the DA. Don't get
It's because I've been collecting the signatures for Protect Kids California.
Yes.
And we have a little bit more of that. It's very well worth anybody's signing if you can. Come see me later. I won't hijack this one. But the one thing that I found that is so frustrating in trying to get these signatures is that the way the forms are, it's so easy to go out and, so you collect 10 and 5 of them are spoiled, unless you're just overlooking everything. I would really love to see those forms change so there's more like blackout lines between each signature so they don't spoil a signature, so we really can have our voices heard. So I don't know if that's ever been brought up. And then also the last one is the names of these things. The one for this one is terrible, what they gave the name.
Right. So that's the name, the title and ballot titles and summaries are done by the Attorney General's office, and the forms are done by the Secretary of State's office. So those are statewide offices. I mean, I would encourage you to call them and lodge a complaint.
I'll also just share real quick that, and the DA mentioned the amount of numbers of different signatures that you're trying to get. It's also why professional signature gatherers are put into place versus volunteers when you look at the expense of it, because these are trained people that are going out there trying their best to make sure that they get as many qualified signatures as they can. I know that question's come up with other ballot initiatives as well. So, Craig.
Hey, Mike, first off, I want to say thank you for everything you do for our community. We certainly appreciate you. Thank you. As an insurance representative, you keep on bringing up the 950 threshold on businesses, but what about residential? Those that are hitting, $800 at this house and then $750 at this house, et cetera, et cetera. Does the same thing come into play?
No. So Prop 47 did not affect residential burglary. So residential burglary has always remained a felony, and anyone who steals from your home, even if it's a small amount, can be charged with a felony. Yeah, so the 950 only applies to commercial.
Commercial.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over to Hemet. Do we have any questions from Hemet? I see someone with a mic.
Yep. This is Terry over in Hemet. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I just have a question on as you were reading through the 47 ideas and things, one of the things that kind of hit me is there a magic number to that 3 thing? They get to go out and do it once, and they're going to get a hand slap, and they get to go out and do it twice, and they're going to get a hand slap, and on the 3rd time, we're finally going to move it from a misdemeanor to a felony. Is there a magic number on that 3? Is that why couldn't it be the 2nd time they went out?
There's no magic number, and it's a fair criticism. I think a lot of us would have liked hey, why not just do this on the first time? You know the law, right? So let's not give people. We've gotten to this place by coddling people. Let's stop doing that and just make them obey the law. I certainly would have supported something like that, but those of us we wrote this initiative to pass in places like San Francisco and Santa Monica, and so we wanted to be able to campaign on a true statement that we left the structure of Proposition 47 in place. Because let's be honest, in California, you need the votes in order to pass anything, you need the votes of people who are Democrats and independents. There's not enough Republicans, there's not enough conservatives in California. And so that was a strategy that we deliberately took. So your criticism is well taken, sir. I agree with it. But yes, so the first, you're right. We're gonna leave a system in place that results in a slap on the hand for a couple times, but I can assure you it's going to be a vast improvement. And let me just make one point. There's now going to be an incentive for the police officers to come out and take that report on a misdemeanor, because what they're going to think is, all right, this is a misdemeanor, but I've got to make sure that all misdemeanors now become valuable, because we're trying to get, not that we're trying, but want to make sure that people's records reflect what they're doing. And if you have 2 prior misdemeanors, now all of a sudden the DA can charge a felony. So they're going to come out now. That gives them an incentive to come out and, give that ticket. And we're still going to have people that don't show up, but, hopefully it will still result in greater enforcement. I think it will.
And I think it's one of the great things that you did. I know you don't want to get too political and don't take this as more than a political statement than intended, but things do have to pass through this legislature. We know that this is a supermajority Democratic state that kind of has a little bit more liberal views when it comes to some of the public safety issues. So as frustrating as that might be, clearly the polling shows people are ready for that kind of change. So I did see a question over here, and then I'll come back over. There you go.
I got it. I had a question just out of curiosity. Does the San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria support these amendments to Prop 47? Because he has recently been posting that crime has been down in San Diego the last 2 years, which everybody knows that's not true. So I'm wondering if he is supportive of this as well.
I know that we've been in talks to try to get his support, but he's been wavering a little bit. So I think he's going to come and support it. I know that I was recently informed as of 3 days ago that the mayor of Riverside is now on board to jump on board. I think Todd Gloria will support it, but how do I say this diplomatically? Politicians sometimes wiggle around and dodge a little bit and wait till the very last minute and then put their finger in the air and say, I supported it all along.
And just a question, does George Gascon, is he putting money towards trying to fight this amendment coming on the ballot?
Not him, but his backers. George Soros is going to put millions into fighting it. Some of the folks that are going to be calling me names are they going to be backed by them? So there's a lot of money will come in opposition. We think we're going to be outspent at least 10, maybe 20 to 1. We think we'll win anyway, because I think the public, when you look at those numbers, I mean, they're gonna pound the public with crime is down, just like you said. Don't believe your lying eyes, believe us. The DAs want to incarcerate everybody, and one thing I've heard is they want to go back and this is just the old war on drugs thing, and the DA would want to incarcerate addicts. But that's why we did the treatment mandated felony, right? So we don't want to incarcerate addicts, but the current status quo is not working. Let's try something else.
Mike, over here.
Thank you, DA Hestrin.
I guess a couple questions about the whole loss prevention thing. In the good old days, it used to be that at least the major retailers had loss prevention specialists. It seems like they're no longer.
That's right.
They're absent. And it seemed to me that that would be a big component in helping assist the process. Is there like a legal framework that bounds or puts the brakes on corporate loss prevention?
It's a good question. So the loss prevention departments still exist. In fact, not long ago, about 6 months ago, Home Depot, and not the national Home Depot, but our local Home Depot, invited me to come and see their loss prevention efforts. So I did. And they go to great lengths to try to stop shrinkage. That's what they call it. So they have cameras everywhere, and they showed me how they lock up things. And at the time, they still hadn't locked up the little nuts and bolts aisle. And the day that I was there, they said the order was already in place to lock up every display in the entire store at Home Depot. This was Home Depot in Moreno Valley. So they still have loss prevention, but they've been ordered by their corporate offices not to interfere with theft. And the reason for that is because there's no consequence. So they're doing the cost benefit, saying if we touch anybody, we get sued. Our folks are putting themselves in danger for what? The police won't even come. So why are we going to do any of that when there's no consequence for theft? And I'm hoping that this will change that equilibrium a little bit. The cost benefit analysis will be different, and they'll start to say, and I don't know that they'll go back to putting hands on. I don't know that was ever a smart thing, but they may come up with other strategies to try to stop theft. And their loss prevention departments, they work closely with us and with sheriffs and with police. So I think they're gonna be incentivized just like the police to crack down on repeat offenders.
So I guess a follow-up then. So, I guess thinking this through logically, you've got this process where these people are coming in, they're carrying whatever they want out of the store. By the time the police get there, these people are long gone. They're really fast on foot.
Yeah.
And they're gone. So how is it that, and I don't mean to criticize because it's not a criticism, but it's just an understanding. How is it that this is all going to help minimize?
Okay. So I'll let you in on some little secrets, trade secrets here. There are cameras everywhere. So when someone rolls in to steal from Target, let's just take an example. Someone goes into Target, they pull the shopping cart out, and this happens all the time. They go down an aisle and they just walk down and push everything that's on the shelf into their cart. And then they walk out. Okay? Yeah. They do that because they're going to take that laundry detergent, they're going to sell it. Right? So when you see laundry detergent sold at like liquor stores, that's all stolen.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's take that person. They'll then leave that Target and they'll go hit another Target. Okay, they do this for a living. So we are able to get them because there are cameras all over. There's security cameras on the Target. We can get their license plate, and the criminals aren't typically the brightest, and so they're if a lot of times they use a registered car with an address, and we show up, and guess what we find it. I'm talking too much. I'm getting cut off. So we go to their address. It's registered to their car, and there's the detergent. So it's not a matter. We don't need to catch them in the act or before they leave the store. That's not true anymore at all. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was 30 years ago, more so, but the technology that we have is pretty amazing. We've got flock camera systems all over Riverside County. If anyone commits a crime in Riverside County, law enforcement in this county can pinpoint you within 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, let's go over to Hammett, and then Genevieve, you want to get a couple rows behind you. Back over to Hammett.
I forgive my ignorance, but somebody was asking if someone was against this, and we're making these changes to protect businesses, and ultimately, if they're drug addicts, they're getting an offer for rehab. Well, I don't understand why someone would not be in support of this.
Yes, me neither. So we should wrap this up pretty quickly. No, I agree with you. I mean, it seems shocking to me that anyone's going to oppose this, but we're going to have opposition. Now, the opposition, in my opinion, will not be honest. They're going to say, like some of the things I've already told you, they're going to say, just wants to lock up everybody, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. But I'm trying to save our state. I live here. I'm raising a child here. A lot of people my friends are leaving to go move to Idaho. I want to change that. And this is our home. I want to fight for it. I want to save it. That's what's motivating me to get up in the morning and do all this work and get called all kinds of names that I'm going to get called. That's fine with me. I don't care. But those who are against it are driven by an ideology. And I'm not driven by an ideology. I'm driven by facts and common sense. I just want to do what works. If Prop 47 had worked marvelously, I wouldn't be standing here. But it obviously hasn't. It's been an abject, utter failure, disaster for our state. So it's time to change it and go to the next policy. And look, I'm sure that once we get this law passed, there'll be other problems that arise and other unintended consequences, and we'll have to maybe fix that too. But we have to take these first steps. For example, someone asked me recently, well, do you have all of the rehabilitation programs ready to go? And I said, no, because for the last 10 years, the demand for that has dropped 70% or almost 70%. So they dried up. So yes, we're going to have a challenge. People are going to be going into the drug rehabilitation business again. Yep. And that's going to take time to ramp up, but that shouldn't stop us from taking the first necessary steps in changing the law.
And if I could just add before we go to, I think there's a question over here, and I was going to mention this at the end. The Realtors are the largest grassroots organization in the country, not only in California, but in the country. The reason we wanted to bring the DA out was to give you guys this information firsthand. Please don't hold it to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I say this every single time we have election season. Don't remember the last commercial or ad or even mail piece that you've got. Do your research. Find out the information firsthand. It doesn't get more firsthand than this. So as this starts making its way through, it does seem very common sense, why would anybody not want this? But there is going to be opposition, and there's going to be some false narratives out there, some misinformation that's being shared. You now have had the opportunity to hear it directly from the DA. Please share this with your friends, colleagues, family, everybody that you can, clients as well.
Sir, I wanted to thank you again for being proactive here. Thanks for all the hard work that you do.
Thank you.
I'm going to speak not just as a realtor, but as a few retired law enforcement people here as well. A few of us are retired. And I know you've got your hands tied. This started happening a long time ago. But it's not just having aggressive or proactive DAs such as yourself. Obviously, it's having the framework in place from the state level on down. It started with a jail overcrowding BS that they pushed, and it was downhill from there. But you mentioned it, and I know it's a multi-pronged, approach. You also mentioned working closely with loss prevention from places like Target and Home Depot and such. When I was a detective in LA, I did that. I saw that thieves weren't being prosecuted. You had through the reduction of a felony into a misdemeanor and so on. So what was happening is, a lot of political figures will say, including some chiefs of police and sheriffs, where it's all about numbers. Our crime stats. Well, so I know I'm kind of long-winded, but so rather than looking at it singularly in terms of a theft, right, and whether that theft is a misdemeanor or a felony, shoplifting and such, back then I came up with a strategy where we were able to successfully get the DA to file burglary charges, right, by showing that they entered with the intent to commit a theft.
Yeah.
Are you guys pursuing that and working closely with these retailers to go in that direction so you have a little more teeth?
When did you retire?
In 2015-16.
Okay, so Prop 47 did away with what you're talking about. So, I've been a prosecutor for 27 years. I've been working in the same office for 27 years. So I know exactly what you're talking about. We used to do the same thing. We would look at a case and say, well, if it's serious enough, if there's prior history, we'll make it a felony. We lost the ability to do that with Prop 47. So Prop 47 ties our hands completely and makes everything, all theft, everything. Look, this is how crazy it is. You go into a bank and steal from a bank, and if it's under $950, it's a misdemeanor in California.
Yeah.
So, it truly ties our hands. So we can't, I understand what your question, we can't make those into felonies to get more teeth. We have to change the laws. And that's why we've gone to this effort, because I can't keep doing the same thing and telling the owners nothing we can do for you.
Over here, Vicky.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Vicki.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
As Adam alluded to, we're one of the largest lobbying organizations in the country and in the state of California. Are you also talking to chambers of commerce, and do you have like a speakers bureau and or material that you could give us so that we can go out there and be
Yes.
boots on the ground along with you?
Yes, I've been to many chambers. I'm making my rounds. I've presented to the Riverside Chamber. They're in support of this. The PowerPoint that I'm going to leave with you, you're welcome to spread that around. Use it as you wish. And I'm quite busy these days. I spend a lot of time going up to Sacramento on working on this as well. So, but I will make time. If you have an organization you want me to speak to, I'll come out and do my best to get out there.
Right here. Mine is kind of a two-part question, so I wrap my head around a little more. You called it an amendment, right? That's going to happen for this Prop 47. So what does it do once it does get, passed, basically? Is it something that kind of resets everybody's like criminal record, I guess, for thefts and things like that? So like your 70 count guy that was, habitually stealing, he's now going to be, prosecuted.
He's already at 2.
He's a big out, right? Okay. And so a follow-up question would be like, some of the intervention that can be done when they get their first and second, right? I mean, are you guys still working with like work release programs and things like that so they can, instead of just, I guess, wait for the next misdemeanor, they can be put into something like that where they can put in the effort for the city or for wherever they're going to be assessed and things like that.
For sure. For sure. For those people that come into the courts and they get a misdemeanor conviction, yeah, you could expect they're going to get community service or picking up, trash on the side of the freeway. That's typically what the punishment's going to be for a misdemeanor. They might, not in our county, but in some counties where they have plenty of room at the jail, they could get a couple days in jail. No misdemeanor in Riverside County ever sees a jail cell. We're at capacity, but theoretically, it's possible they could get that punishment for a misdemeanor. So yeah, you'll see those things for misdemeanors, but it's after the third offense that they could get a felony.
Okay, we're gonna go back over to Hammett. Is there a question over there?
Yes, how do you turn on the mic?
You're
Actually, it's been talked around here by some of the people that are sitting here in the room that this identifies crime as a direct target and things, and the things we can do about some of those things, but it doesn't identify what this is going to do about the homeless situation. Can you kind of direct us, because it's actually homeless is in the title of it, but
yes,
alluded to that.
No, I did. You might have missed it. So homelessness. So look, if you look at our homeless problem, and it's gone through the roof, there's probably a small, somewhat, I believe, a small number of folks that are pure economically homeless. In other words, a family lost their job. They're homeless because they don't have the means anymore to pay the rent, and we have high rents in California. We all get that. But the vast majority of homeless are suffering from the twin scourges of drug addiction and or mental health issues. That's just the truth. And this is another area where state leaders try to lie to the public all the time. And they say, well, homelessness is driven by the high rents and the high cost of housing. Yeah, that's true. We have a high cost of housing, but there are other places in the country that have high housing. Why has their homelessness not gone through the roof? Ours has gone through the roof because of Prop 47. Because when we said there's no more punishment for drug offenses, no one goes into drug rehabilitation anymore, right? So those two things are driving homelessness. So this initiative does tackle that by changing that calculus. So we're going to be able to get people, hopefully, if this works right, we're going to get people into drug rehabilitation programs once again. It won't happen overnight, and as I said, we're going to have to rebuild the infrastructure for this. But look, let me step away from that to answer the question more fully. My first 3 years or 4 years as a prosecutor, I spent 2 of those years assigned to what we then called drug court. And this is prior to Prop 47. And we had people coming into our court that were addicts, and they were habitual drug offenders. So I got to see up close and personal what drug addiction does to human bodies and human minds. It ravages them. People are in the grip of addiction. They cannot escape it. And they're not themselves. This is routinely what would happen. They would come into the court and they would start cussing out the judge, cussing out me, cussing out their own defense attorney, mad at the world, screaming. And we had smart judges, and they would say, we're going to come back here in 2 weeks. And I can tell you 90% of the time, the person would come back in 2 weeks, apologize to the judge, apologize to me, say, I'm so sorry, I don't know what got into me. Of course I want drug rehabilitation. Whereas 2 weeks before, I'm never doing anything, I'm not doing anything you tell me, I'm never going to stop doing drugs. What was the drugs talking? So we have no chance right now to get people into rehabilitation because they never dry up, they don't go to jail. So they're constantly high, and we're offering them a chance to go back on the streets that night with our stupid misdemeanor scheme. Yeah. It doesn't work. So this just gives us a chance. I'm not saying it's a panacea. It's not an easy solution. There are no easy solutions for drug addiction. And by the way, mental health issues on the street, many of the mental health issues are caused by substance abuse as well. If you use methamphetamine for 10 years and you're not eating well, you will have mental health issues. I guarantee you that. Mm-hmm. That's what's driving this. So we've got to get to these causes and get to policy that just gives us a chance to work.
Hey, Mike, please run for governor.
No, I'm going to be here with my wife and my children. But I heard someone else is running for governor that you might want to support.
Sheriff Bianco, yes, that would be great. So my question is this: why are the politicians sitting around coming up with laws that hurt the average law-abiding citizen?
It's a great question.
And let me preface that with, I do have a little bit in law enforcement too, so I do get to see felons with guns virtually weekly. I mean, we had a good one last week where a felon had 8 guns, 50 pounds of drugs, and he's out of jail in 4 hours. He's booked and released. Felons do not go to jail when they have guns with them.
That's right.
And the politicians sit around, introduce SB 2, which takes guns away from the average person who's not breaking the law, yet they're letting out the felons. So what's the end game here?
So I said earlier that the folks that support or don't support this are driven by ideology, but I'll go one step further. So I think I referenced that I sat recently on a panel of prosecutors at Berkeley, up in Northern California. And as we drove up to Berkeley, and we drove through the Bay Area, and you see it looks like a disaster zone in some areas. Yeah. And then you drive up into the Berkeley Hills and onto the campus, and what you see is manicured lawns, beautiful homes behind gates, security gates. Mm-hmm. And the people that run our state live behind those gates, and they have no idea, or they don't want to know what's happening to the rest of us. And they don't care to know. And that's got to change. And the public has got to reassert itself. and make democracy work, because they're out of, there's a dangerous out of touch between the people that run the state and the people that abide by the laws and pay the taxes, and it's getting to a boiling point. So all I can tell you is that they're not in touch. They believe the ideology. They believe that that it's all going to be great because that's what their theory says.